My eyes trace the ceiling, but the familiar hum is finally gone. A profound quiet now fills every hollow space within these walls. I look into the darkened window, seeing only still glass. My reflection holds a vacant, peaceful expression I barely recognize. There is no lingering trace, no stretched distortion, just quiet. The phone in its cradle is silent, finally complete. I finally feel a strange, disquieting sense of peace. But that peace came at a cost, or perhaps it was the cost itself. It all began with a low, persistent hum vibrating through the house. It started the very moment I hung up the phone. Not electrical, but a resonant emptiness, a constant, unseen companion. Then came the reflections, shifting in darkened windows. My own face seemed to linger a split second too long. Was that vacant expression truly mine? Small objects in the house began to subtly rearrange themselves. My keys in a different bowl, a book on the wrong shelf. A disorienting sense of quiet invasion settled over everything. I found myself hesitating before entering rooms. A primal instinct warned of an unseen presence just beyond the doorframe, a sense of occupancy where there should be none. Then the unused landline started to ring every day, exactly at 3037 a.m., without fail. The display showed no caller ID, just blankness. If I answered, there was only a deadline, a vast emptiness. But if I let it ring, a faint, almost imperceptible whisper followed the final tone. It was too quiet to distinguish. A ghost of a sound! The next day it rang again. Same time, same silence. The whispers from the phone began to evolve, subtly, chillingly. It became a pattern of familiar, rhythmic breathing. It seemed to emanate from the handset itself, even when unplugged. Quiet, expectant sound, waiting for something. I tried to rationalize it all away, grasping for control. Extreme stress, lingering grief from a recent unnamed loss. Perhaps a bizarre, isolated electrical fault in the old house's wiring. I almost believed the unease was self-induced and controllable. This logical explanation provided a temporary, fragile sense of relief, a brief lull where I almost convinced myself the problem was mundane. But the quiet breathing continued, a subtle mockery of my efforts. I was wrong to find comfort. The landline rang again, but this time the display was different. It showed my own number calling. Impossible. My hand trembled as I answered, dread filling my chest. I heard a muffled sound, my own voice repeating my name. It came from an impossible distance, distorted and chilling. The rearranged objects now formed deliberate, unsettling patterns, often spiraling inwards towards the phone, a clear direction, or outlining a vague, forgotten symbol, unnervingly familiar. I began receiving vague, cryptic text messages from unsaved numbers. They weren't directly threatening, but implied an intimate, chilling knowledge of my current anxieties and the strange events in my home. My own voice, when I spoke aloud, started to sound unfamiliar, slight echo or a subtle shift in timbre. I would pause, unsure if it was truly coming from me. The whispers from the phone, and now from empty corners of rooms, intensified. They began to coalesce into coherent fragments, always starting with my name, spoken with unnerving clarity, followed by questions or statements implying I had taken something, or that I was occupying a place I shouldn't be. The hum in the house seemed to grow louder, more oppressive. My reflection in the darkened glass stretched further, more maliciously. The rearranged objects multiplied, appearing daily in new places. The 3037 a.m. call became a torment, the breathing growing stronger. Hesitation turned to dread, each room a potential ambush. The calls from my own number repeated, chilling me to the core. The patterned objects grew more intricate, more obscure. Texts arrived more frequently, their intimacy unnerving. My voice felt increasingly foreign, a stranger's words from my throat. The whispers became clearer, more insistent, always my name. They spoke of what I owed, what I had taken unknowingly. But I had nothing, remembered nothing. The feeling of being watched never left me, day or night. Sleep offered no escape, only fragmented, unsettling dreams. Every shadow seemed to breathe, every creak a step. The sense of occupancy grew, pressing in from all sides. I was not alone, I was never alone. My mind started to fray, reality blurring at the edges. I sought out quiet, but found only oppressive stillness. The silence was a presence, the hum, a constant reminder. One day, a forgotten photograph surfaced in a drawer, a picture of a stranger, yet unsettlingly familiar. An unexplainable resemblance to me, a mirrored image, while possessing a distinguishing mark I recognized as my own. It felt like looking at a ghost of myself, or a future. Attempts to leave the house became impossible. An overwhelming, oppressive inertia rooted me to the spot. A sudden, inexplicable exhaustion washed over me near the threshold. An irrational fear of the outside world consumed me. The thought of stepping past the threshold became unthinkable. I was trapped, my home transformed into a cage. The mirror showed my reflection shifting fleetingly into the face of the stranger from the photograph. A seamless, unnerving transition lasting only a fraction of a second, but leaving me breathless, utterly horrified. It was a warning, a promise of what was coming. The coherent whispers intensified, growing bolder, more demanding. They now demanded repeatedly that I return what is theirs. The phrase was a heavy, crushing weight. Though I had no memory of taking anything, of owning anything belonging to them, my self was eroding piece by piece. The hum in the house now felt like a living, breathing thing. My reflection blurred almost entirely, a ghost in the glass. Objects moved even as I watched, deliberately, mockingly. The 3037 a.m. calls were no longer just calls, but conversations with myself. Each room felt fully occupied, a silent audience watching my decline. My own voice, my own face were no longer truly mine. The demands grew louder, echoing in my mind. Return what is theirs, return what is theirs. The question pounded, though I knew no answer. Then, one final time, the landline rang. The display showed only static, a churning void. But I felt an overwhelming, inescapable urge to answer it. One last time, to finally understand, or surrender. My fingers closed around the cold receiver. I picked it up. There was no sound on the line. No dial tone, no voice, no static, nothing. Only profound, absolute silence. A quiet that felt like a vast, empty space, consuming everything. I did not speak my name. Jay! I did not speak any name. I simply listened to the perfect, consuming quiet. And then it vanished. The oppressive hum in the house, gone. The reflections in the windows were still completely static, holding a vacant, peaceful expression. The phone was gently replaced in its cradle. The call was, finally, complete.